Welcome back to the Juan Palomino Breakthrough Podcast. I'm Jenna, and I'm here with my husband, Juan.
Hey, everybody.
Today,
welcome back.
Welcome back. Today, we're stepping into a conversation that so many leaders, couples, and families wrestle with, but rarely put words to. Silence.
We're trying to keep quiet here. Okay, so silence. We're going to talk about silence. Yeah.
And not the peaceful kind of silence or the awkward, right? But the silence that hides hurt. The silence that keeps us from saying what needs to be said in the mirror. Or the silence that slowly erodes intimacy and trust.
Silence always feels like the safer option, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I don't say anything. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and everything will be fine, just fine. But we know that over time, it's actually, silence becomes the most destructive pattern, I guess we can call it that. Because when we avoid things, avoiding things doesn't heal our wounds. It doesn't heal our relationships. I mean, it doesn't heal anything. In fact, I think it's the opposite. It deepens the hurt, the pain.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So tell me, why do you think that so many people default to silence, especially like in marriage or in leadership?
It's a protection mechanism. I think that fear drives it. I mean, honestly, Jenna, who likes conflict? There's some weirdos out there probably that do, right? Like, I want to get into a conflict with somebody or or a political debate or that, and that's crazy in
people
itself.
Like attention or people who
maybe,
chaos
yeah, but
it always leads down to a deeper hurt.
Yeah, and people want to live in peace, and I think we confuse peace with fear. That's a big one. And no one likes to be rejected. So if you bring up something and have a conversation, the person is opposing it, people just want to, in their minds, are like, I don't want drama. The other part is people fear losing control. They want to be in control. Sometimes they use silence as a space where not only do they feel safer in the moment, but it's a false safety. Again, a safety mechanism. But the reality is, we speak to many people, is that whatever goes unspoken, it just doesn't disappear. It's still there. And it's this underlying pressure that just builds and builds and builds under the surface. And until one day, right, they catch you outside. They catch you in a bad moment and things just explode.
Yeah, for sure. And would you call that like a resentment?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, yeah, definitely. There's a lot of a buildup of resentment there. But again, it self-actualizes because you're not saying anything. You're staying quiet. You're, like keeping record of stuff, keeping records of all the wrongs, which, the Bible tells us that in 1 Corinthians 13 is that love keeps records of no wrong. But again, eventually it leads to a big fight, an explosion.
Yeah, I can say that I've been there, and I've had to learn to speak.
To speak up for yourself,
and
right?
I think too that sometimes silence can be modeled, right? So like if you grew up in a family where conflict was ignored, swept under the rug, or avoided, you learn that pattern.
Yeah, there's many patterns. We could talk about anger, explosion, throwing things across the room, God forbid, or lashing out. And what we're talking about right now is also something that could be modeled or was modeled to you. So it's silence.
What about like
stonewalling?
For example, like a family secret.
Well, yeah, we definitely don't talk about those things, right? We definitely don't want to let the world know that, that uncle so-and-so did this or did that. And it's a family secret. But you know what else? There's other things like shame. Shame could be something that a parent or a loved one carries, and they pass on that shame to you, meaning that because they never healed from the shame, so they will make you feel ashamed. They will shame you for things like, oh, I can't believe that you haven't learned that. Or I can't believe that you can't read. Or, how old are you? Like, grow up. Or you need to do this, or you need to do that, or you never do this. Unforgiveness is something that I know haunts a lot of people, whether it's from past relationships and they think that, oh, I just don't need to talk about it, or I'll, not bring it up. And so therefore it's gone. But the reality is that unforgiveness, without realizing it, is impacting, you today if you have any unforgiveness towards somebody. So these are all generational chains that in silence are hurting people.
Yeah. And I think about people who were raised in the church, right? And the church who would say, kids are to be seen and not heard.
Kids, yeah.
Right. And so having that type of hurt.
Yeah.
And growing up with that, that's.
And you know what's the crazy part about this? We think that it's maturity sometimes as believers. Oh, I'm the mature one, so I'm not going to cause drama. I'm not going to cause conflict. And it's actually avoidance. I will even lean in on this and say that avoidance is sinful. You can't avoid sin.
Yeah.
It's there and it needs to be called out. So if somebody offends you, you have to call it out. Again, in Matthew chapter 18, there's the importance of how to do this in a healthy way. So the cost of avoiding or silence is sinful. We have to call it out, not only in ourselves personally, but also in other people. In love, of course. Jesus gives us this perfect example of the woman that was caught in adultery, where the Pharisees, these religious people, caught her committing adultery, and they bring her to the feet of Jesus. Of course, it was to trip him up as well. And they quote what the Old Testament, they're living in the Old Testament also themselves, right? Oh, actually, the New Testament is being written. And they go, hey, the law of Moses says that a woman that's caught in adultery needs to be stoned to death. And I love what Jesus does. He basically confronts their silence, confronts their sin, and says, hey, well, let the first one that has no sin go ahead and cast the first stone. Meaning, hey, like, you're sinful as well. Like, you sin as well. So I want to bring out your sin, because you're drawing hers out. You've seen her do it, but it was their religiosity that was sinful. Jesus called them crazy names. He was cussing them out. You brood of vipers, and you whitewashed tombs, and all this, right? So again, the cost of avoiding our sin, and it's easier to point out others' sin than it is to look at ours. And it costs us personally to avoid, our sin by being silent.
So what happens in a marriage or team or a family when silence becomes the pattern?
Oh, man. Resentment. One word. It builds up resentment. The perfect example is in parents. If you are disciplining your kids differently or treating them differently, we see this in the Bible as well. We see what happens with Joseph as, his dad treats him differently, treats him better. He's given this rainbow coat, if you will. It's just a colorful coat. It doesn't have to be rainbow colored, but I can say rainbow in the 21st century. Yes, you can. It's God created the rainbow to let us know he will never get rid of us again. Anyways, the point that I'm making here is his brothers and sisters, the older brothers and sisters, immediately were like, well, why is he getting this special, coat? And why is he favored? The point that I'm making here is that the difference in relationships and how we treat people can cause also resentment towards others. And, people, as parents, we are parents. Then we go, I can't treat our daughter, which, you say you do treat her differently. And I'm like, I love my baby girl. I love her. But I also need to discipline her. Yeah. I also need to, when she sees me discipline her older brothers, she can't be the one that's favored. Come on, somebody. Right? And because if not, they're going to be resentful towards her.
Right.
And what we're trying to say is silence My boys can easily become silent and go, oh, well, she gets away with everything. And they'll talk behind her back and they'll start treating her bad because they're carrying this resentment because daddy treats their little sister and she can get away with everything and anything. And I'm setting her up for failure is what I'm saying by doing that. I'm building up this resentment in them to say, well, she got away with anything and everything. And then they can throw it later on in my face and say, well, you always treat, our sister better than us, or you do this or you do that. And I need to be careful that in the silence, that's not what I'm doing as a parent. Does that make sense?
Well, and not only that, and when she goes into the world, she's going to feel like entitled.
Oh, big time. That's a great word too. Yeah. And she's not going to get that favor out in the world like she does here at home. My hope and prayer is that she is favored in Jesus' name, that all of our kids are, not just her, but all of them, but that they win that favor because of their character, the character that we instilled in them, the character that we build up. In other words, here we go back to full circle. What we're saying is what's modeled to us. More is caught than taught. And so how we treat our kids is going to determine the character that they have also. So we want to make sure that we try to avoid all those silent resentments as best as possible. And we have these conversations with them and confront these character defects that they have. God forbid that we instilled in them, Jenna, but that we're building them up with good character. So resentment builds if we don't confront sin, and then trust weakens. That's another big piece. I mean, our boys, going back to the analogy of what I was using here of home, my boys are not going to trust me if I treat one of them or one of the three with more favor than I treat the other two. They're going to be like, I can't trust you, Dad. And our relationship is going to become so shallow. It's going to be like passing only in the hallway. It's just like, how you doing? Fine. I hate that. And it's like, no, I want a deeper conversation. But if there's no trust, then they're not going to feel seen. The one that's going to feel seen the most is this example that we're giving is, for example, our little girl is the one that feels the most seen out of all three if I choose to favor her. So yeah. So that avoidance will create distance, and then distance will lead to disconnection ultimately.
Yeah. So I think about in a marriage, right? I've been to plenty of women's retreats.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I just had coffee with somebody yesterday, and she was even saying one thing that she hated when going to like women's ministry or anything like that is when like women would come to just like gossip.
Oh, wow.
And I was thinking back to like when I would go to a women's retreat and how women would just bash their husbands, right? And like I would sit there and I'd be like, this is like what is happening here?
Unhealthy.
Like, and I think that's where the silence comes in, is like where these women are unhappy with their husbands, but they're not communicating their husbands how they're feeling. Maybe they are, I don't know, but I feel like we have great communication. So if I ever feel like, you're not,
listening to you,
or like if I need more help around the house, I'm going to let you know. I've also spoken to other.
So you mean you wouldn't post it on social media and let the world know?
Or just go talk to a friend and say.
And just gossip.
My husband isn't helping me around the house, and just building this resentment behind your back, and then you don't even know about it.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Right? Because then that creates a distance and disconnection, like you said.
Yeah, very good.
And then you have no idea what's going on, and I just like have this resentment built up between us.
You know that's modeled behavior as well in the church. And I'm serious. Like that is behavior that, PKs, pastors' kids, or not even pastors' kids, but people that are in the church with parents that grew up with parents that are Christians, unfortunately, that was modeled to them. Everybody puts on a face, a mask at church, and then they come home and then they talk about, did you see Mary? Oh my gosh, what she was wearing and this and this and that, and what she said during prayer and this and that. And so the kids are just sitting there listening, observing mom and dad having the gossip session, or, mom is on the phone with another church lady on the phone, and it just turns into a gossip session when the kids are doing homework in the background, but they're listening intently.
You don't want them to listen, and they listen. They don't listen,
Oh yeah.
But I think it's also modeled.
Warning.
It's also modeled in the church as far as like roles, right? Like women belong in the kitchen. And men belong like outside, whatever, working. And so I think too, like that's important to communicate in your marriage of like, what do our roles look like? Like, what are our expectations of each other? Like what does that look like inside the house?
Right.
Because if you don't have that conversation with each other of like.
So what you're saying is that men don't have to do the dishes? You're saying
that? That's our oldest son's job, actually.
And take out the trash and do all that stuff. I mean, there's rules to this. There are.
But it's modeled like when we were raised, right? Yeah. So like I grew up where my dad helped around the house and he did that stuff.
Yep. I remember that.
You were raised differently. And so when we came together, that was something that we like you're raised differently. And so you have these different expectations. And so you have to come together and communicate those things.
And you did well. You did that well because you would voice it. And to me, it was foreign because I was like, I have to help you with what? The dishes? Or like, I could take out the trash and then I would see you slave away, I'll call it that, doing dinner for a family of 5. And then afterwards, clean also. And I was like, well, that's unfair. In my heart, God put it in me like saying, man, that's a lot. So you were in the kitchen. Let's say you start dinner at 4:30. Dinner at 6:00, and then we're done at 7, and then still cleaning up after that. That's 4.5 hours of doing a phenomenal dinner, which, by the way, shout out to my wife. She's a phenomenal cook and baker now, which is great. But the point that I was like, I felt it where I was like, okay, I get to go sit on the couch now and watch TV, veg with the kids while you're still in the kitchen. I go, it didn't sit right with me. And as I heard you voice it, I was like, yes, get up. And I was the one that led and was telling the kids, get up, come on, we're going to help mom out. And then we've come to a place now for years where you cook, but then we clean. We take out the trash. We, rinse out the dishes in the sink and then put them in the dishwasher and run the dishwasher. And in the morning, right, Caleb, our oldest, here at home, does the dishes, right? He puts them away. And whatever's in the sink, we let them know, hey, there's dishes in the sink. Right. So that's just one aspect of it that has avoided a lot of conflict in our home. We still here and there kind of go, come on, before we go to school, you got to do this, do that.
But I think where resentment builds is having those expectations that aren't voiced.
You just assume.
It's silence.
But if you did that, can you imagine how much resentment you would have had? I mean, we're 14 years into our relationship and 13 married. Yeah, we wouldn't be where we're at today. No. We wouldn't be on this podcast. We wouldn't be here looking at each other kind of, we're faking it here about, no. We're having a real conversation of a massive area, something as small as what are our roles? What are the expectations? And can they change? That is the question. That is where Jesus says, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the kingdom of God. Well, men, if you're listening to this, meekness is not weakness. You're not going to become weak, or you're not going to have to wear a skirt next week because you're grabbing a broom and helping your wife out, to, to sweep the floor in the kitchen. Because we have a dog as well. She's a 65-pound chocolate Labrador who drops a lot of hair, and our allergies kick in. That's a whole other podcast in itself. Or that you're going to help additionally out with cleaning the house before company comes over. And it's cool because guess what one of my wife's love languages is? What is it?
I have no idea.
Well, aside from quality time, it's also what? Acts of service. Okay.
I thought you were going to say hosting.
No. So guess what, ladies and gentlemen, when I do one of my wife's acts of service, I get googly eyes.
Yeah.
Ooh, all right.
Okay. Let's not go there again.
Don't get nervous. Don't get nervous.
So what I'm trying to say is when, like, as a wife, when we stay silent and don't communicate our needs, what we think we're trying to do is protect peace.
Oh, so good.
Right? But actually what it gets destroyed by our silence.
Yeah.
So we think that we're protecting our peace, but our peace is actually being destroyed by our own silence.
Can I just keep it real? It postpones pain.
Yeah.
It postpones the pain that needs to come out.
Yeah.
And can I just say, you rather deal with little pain than bigger pain. And that bigger pain, unfortunately, again, we sit with couples or individually, and I sit down with guys, and it's the pain of, I haven't had intimacy. I haven't had sex with my wife in a month, 2 months, 3 months, good Lord, 6 months. And it's like, well, how is your spouse going to want to be intimate with you when there's so much resentment? There's been so much disconnection, and there's been so much silence. And that's a lot of guys say is, I can't read her mind, bro. It's like, it's not about reading her mind. It's just look at her schedule.
Yeah.
And that's where the empathy and compassion has to come in, to look at your spouse's schedule, and vice versa, right? Goes both ways. But just because she's at home doesn't mean that she's just laying on the couch, painting her nails.
Yeah.
It's not.
Right.
The reality is she's not. And God built us differently. God made us differently.
And if she is at home painting her nails, it's for you.
Yeah, come on, somebody. Oh, what? Okay.
So if silence is destructive, like we said, Juan, then let's talk about how we begin to break that pattern.
Courage, one word. And I like to keep these answers as short as possible because, again, I'm not that bright. I'm not that smart. So courage. The courage to have the confrontation, the courage to have, to break the silence, to break the silence, bring it to God in a quiet space and just say, Lord, this is what's going on. And I need the courage to face my spouse, to face let's take it to the workplace, to face my boss, to face an employee. Maybe you're a boss, maybe you're a manager, that you need to confront someone, but enough of the silence. There has to be that confrontation of what's really going on. You got to name it. Name the thing that you wish or you want to have. And you have to ask God to give you the courage to trust that when you face the truth or you tell that person about the truth, that it won't destroy your relationship. And that's where you have to trust God, that even though it feels like the relationship's going to fall apart, that things feel like they're falling apart, and you're like, this is why I didn't want to have it. You're confronting, that person's whatever that is, dysfunction or their defect of character or whatever it is. And you're like, man, this is what I was trying to avoid. Can I just say this? It's going to help you grow as a person. It's going to help you mature spiritually. Why do I say that boldly? Boldly because you're trusting in God. For many of you listening, for maybe you right now specifically, you've been trusting in the silence, in avoiding. And that is not building your character. That is not helping you grow as a Christ follower. And again, this is the very thing. The confrontation is what I'm saying. Breaking the silence is the very thing that's going to actually save that relationship. It's going to save your marriage. It's going to save your relationship between you and that child. Maybe you have a grown child that is dealing with some serious stuff, but you didn't confront it when you saw it, when they were a child, when they became an adolescent, when they're a young adult, and that's a pattern. And I am so grateful, and I think, Jenna, you can maybe agree with this. No, I would say not maybe, but would agree with this, is that it's so great to have mature Christians in our lives that have confronted patterns in our lives. And I'm talking about negative patterns, including this topic that we're talking about of being silent and us seeing the cost of avoiding confrontation can really have in a person's life and in your walk as a Christ follower. Maybe you're seeing some things in not just your marriage, but at work or at school or in a place where you're like, this shouldn't be this way, and you're avoiding it. You're being silent. In 2020 to 2020, 22 specifically, there was this whole talk about being complicit. Whatever you don't confront, then you're being complicit, towards. I mean, you're becoming a part of it. And God has given you, listen to me, God has given you a voice so that you can break those patterns, those destructive behaviors.
Yeah. And I think going back to what you're saying about having people around you, leaders especially, so many of them are surrounded by people, but they still feel isolated because they may not feel like they have a safe place to voice their struggles.
Well, healing, often starts very small. And sometimes we can't see it by ourselves. And that's why it's always good to have a coach, to always have a mentor, that you can have a safe person like you just said. It's not a massive circle, but it's just one or two people outside of your spouse, men with men and women with women. And you surround yourself with wise people. The Bible tells us to do that, to have wise counselors and have these intentional conversations. And so just saying, for example, right now you mentioned, I don't feel seen. Just saying that makes you feel seen. Because again, you're breaking the silence of, feeling isolated. Maybe you are in rooms, you're in circles that you're going, man, I'm surrounded by people all the time, but it feels like people come to me and I'm always giving. Well, yeah, you could feel unseen in those circles as well as a leader. You could feel unseen as a spouse at home because everyone's like, mom, 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 right? It's like, oh my gosh. And you're like, when do people give me peace, quiet, silence, encouragement, and atta girl, good job. I'm proud of you. I see you. And men feel that way as well. So once again, these things can start small, but start. Okay. Or you can say, man, I've been carrying this hurt since I was 8, since I was 6, or from my last divorce, or I don't know, whatever that is, you have to talk about it. You have to be vulnerable. And all these things that we're talking about, I know it's a place where most of us feel like it's a thing of weakness, but it's not. Vulnerability, everyone, being honest, being open, being transparent it's the soil where intimacy grows.
That's good.
And we need to start with God. You see, God knows it all and God sees it all. And you have to trust that God can redeem it all. He can and he will. But you have to start with intimacy. I always say, intimacy is like, God, you into me, you see. But we have to let our guard down, with God, with ourselves, and with someone else. Those three. And it doesn't have to be the world. I'm not saying to jump on social media and start have at it. That's not what we're saying. It maybe later in the future, right? I always tell people, God has healed us, Jen and I, but now we're doing this so we can help others heal. We feel a call to let people know, hey, we understand this stuff that we're talking about. It's because we've gone through it.
Yeah, I think, like you said,
God has helped us go through it.
It's important to find somebody that you trust, a small circle or a mentor, coach with your vulnerability. You don't want to go on social media, because if you go on social media, and I hope no one's going to do that, but you'll start getting advice from everywhere and you don't know what kind of advice you're going to get. So it's really important to find somebody that you trust.
Somebody, I would say, if you're a Christian, that is biblically sound, someone that is mature, that can relate to what you've gone through. If you're struggling with a specific thing and that person says, oh my gosh, I know exactly what you're going through because I went through that. Whoa, what a gift. Yeah. And I think both of us can say also, Jenna, that God has blessed us with people, specifically the last 14 years that we've been following Christ, with people that said, me too. And so if you think you're listening to this going like, no one's gone through what I've gone through, oh man, let me tell you, that is a lie.
Yeah.
Yes or no, right? It's a lie. There's other people that immediately God introduces you to, and they start sharing their stuff, and you're like, what?
Yeah, there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
I've heard it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't, this doesn't affect us just personally, right? This affects our legacy.
Yep, that too.
So if we break the pattern of silence, we don't just free ourselves, we free our kids.
Ooh, come on.
And their kids.
Yeah.
And their kids and their kids and their kids from carrying the same weight.
Yeah. And once again, we are first generation Christians, and now our children are second generation. And we are trying to model honest, grace-filled conversations. And oh boy, here's a confession. And we get it wrong, right? We do get it wrong at times. But the goal also, when we do get it wrong, God uses that for us to come back and say, like, and again, look at my little girl, look at our little girl, my little girl. No, it's my little girl. And we look at our boys and we're just like, hey, I'm sorry. I mean, that alone, right? Breaking silence, but breaking the silence of saying, I know there's tension between us because you know that I screwed up, but I'm going to apologize. I'm going to say, hey, look at me. And with their little hearts, we just say, hey, I'm sorry I screwed that up. And it's so beautiful for them to say, that's okay. And I can see her little eyes and it gave me a big hug. And then we hug it out.
Yeah.
So we are doing our best to break these patterns, not just to free ourselves, but to, again, free our kids and their kids, like you just mentioned. And then the next generation will know how to, face conflict without fear. Without fear. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind, or self-discipline. And they can choose how to connect better, with people, even when they make mistakes, but realize that their identity is in Christ Jesus and they don't have to distance themselves and live in fear, live in silence, that they can, their voice matters because they matter to God and they matter to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think too, just they have learned that their trust is in God and that God is with them. And so that gives them the
confidence, right?
To go into that support or that conflict.
Yep. And
that's the kind of legacy that we want to leave, one that's built on truth and love and not on silence and shame.
Yeah, no way. We don't want to pass on, whoever's listening to this. I know you're like, I don't want to pass on any of these negative character traits. I don't want to pass on these generational chains to our kids, or that's not my legacy. Well, then listen, you do the work. Confidently trusting in God, because God is the one that'll help you carry out, taking action in this. And again, when things look like they're chaotic, like things are falling out of place, they're not. I love that song. Things are not falling out of place. They're falling into place. Right? They're not falling apart. They're falling into place. Google it. No, Chat GPT it. So yeah.
Anyways, as we wrap up today, we just want to encourage you, if you've been living with any unspoken pain, you don't have to keep carrying it in silence. Sometimes the first step toward healing is simply just naming what has been hidden. If we can just give you one simple step towards application, just name what you've been hiding.
And no one does it perfectly. I know we haven't. I hope this podcast has helped you today understand that, also healing doesn't come from, these rehearsed speeches. It comes from having these real, honest moments with yourself, with God, and the people that you're in relationship with. And can I just say, don't underestimate the power of just saying, I need help. Or I feel hurt. When you say this, when you say that, or when you've done this, like that hurts me. And I don't want to go through that again. Or I don't want to continue that.
Yeah, coming out of that silence and not avoiding.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. So next week, we are diving into a huge myth that so many of us wrestle with. The myth of balance.
What?
Right? We're in this fall season with sports.
Balance this, balance that. Yeah.
Church and activities and all the things that, we're told to juggle everything so perfectly. And
work, family, business, and soccer, and homework, and oh, by the way, don't forget, drink water and exercise and all this. I mean, we have and rest in the middle of all of it.
But what if balance was never the goal?
Ooh, come on.
What if alignment is the way forward?
Ooh, okay. So everybody tune in. I think that this podcast coming up, it's going to be episode 27. 27. 27.
Oh my God.
Oh gosh, you guys. So yeah, if you feel any shame about, I need to balance this, I need to balance that, you don't want to miss it. Podcast number 27. Thanks for being here. Talk to you soon.